Hello and welcome to your Asian Pulse TV, an informative and resourceful station. I'm your host Manbir Randhawa, and today we are broadcasting from the unceded territories of Silvertooth Nation, Mokim and Kwantlen Nations. We feel very blessed for the generosity of the First Nation who allow us to share this land with them. March is considered the onset of spring in Canada, and especially in our beautiful province of British Columbia. Daylight saving time has already begun, and now the days will be longer. Soon, we won't see any sunset until 9 p.m. I'm so excited. With that, the colleges, the schools are also having some time off, so kids are at home. We did discuss some options for parents to enjoy with their kids in our last episode. Hope you have checked it out. Now, in this episode, we would like to wish Happy Ramadan to all of our Muslim friends and viewers who will be keeping fast during this holy month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan is considered as the most holiest and sacred month of the Islamic Hijri calendar. Muslims firmly believe that it was during this exalted month that the Archangel descended from the heavens and revealed the message to the Prophet Muhammad. Ameen. Eid Mubarak, everyone. Let's take a short break and have some words from our sponsors.
I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated.
For any kind of visa-related services, contact Milky Way Immigration, a galaxy of opportunities located at Unit 209-9547 152 Street, Surrey, BC. They have licensed immigration consultants, placement officers, and LMIA experts to meet your immigration and recruitment needs. Book one-time free consultation either on Facebook or by calling 604-396-0005. Bollywood Banquet Hall and Conference Center, located at Pyle Business Center at 201-8166 128th Street in Surrey. No celebration is too small to accommodate you. They have newly renovated 2 halls to serve you, up to 1,000 guest capacity, top-notch chefs to delight you with delectable and heavenly cuisine. So just call Bollywood Banquet Hall at 604-598-2700 for your events. Benisi Mobile Detailing Services. They offer commercial trucks, cars, SUV, boats, bikes, RVs, and much more. Just give them a call at 778-808-2859. Just give them a call at 778-808-2859 and they will do all kind of services at your home. Thank you, sponsors. Our guest today is Eleanor Struco, who's an MLA from South Surrey. He will be talking to us about her private member's bill that she proposed in the legislatures. So have a look.
Hello and welcome to Asian Pulse. My guest today has been here before, but I invited her because she has so much information to share to all of you. And she is no other than Eleanor Struco, and she is a MLA for Surrey South and a critic with the Liberal Party, a critic for the education and also with mental health and addiction. And she is here to talk about, and you must have had quite a bit of a talk that she has done in the legislation, and we can talk to her one-to-one and find out what is, why she's doing that and who she is if you haven't heard from her before. So welcome.
Thanks, Camilla. It's great to be back.
Yes. Anytime I invite you, you are always here. So nice of you to be able to give the time one time.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so that our people that don't watch the sessions all the time, that they be able to hear you what is going on in Victoria. So I know that a lot has happened since last we have met. And one of the big things that I have noticed that recently you have introduced a private member's bill on suicide prevention, that it's not up to the person who is suicidal, but also to get the family involved to talk about the mental health of that person, because sometimes when you are suicidal, when you are so depressed, you cannot make the right decisions. So where did that came from for you?
Well, if I can first just say a little bit about my bill, actually. So it's to put an amendment on the Mental Health Act of BC and to Section 28, which is the section that deals with apprehensions. So if a person's apprehended by the police and brought to the hospital because it's believed that they're a risk to themselves or others, my new change to the legislation would require doctors to contact a close relative or the person who had called the police so that they can get more information when they're making a decision whether to continue to keep that person against their will in the hospital for treatment or whether to let them go. And for me, there's a very personal reason that I was inspired to bring this legislation forward. In my policing career, I attended a number of suicides. One of them was an individual who was released from the hospital, not certified, and then had committed suicide. That was 14 years ago, and I hadn't, stopped really thinking about that person and their family the entire time. And then the other person was a VPD police officer who had died by suicide after not being certified in a pretty public case that actually was the subject of a recent coroner's inquest. But I've heard, just since being an MLA, even been contacted by dozens of people who talk about that they've wanted to help a loved one who was in a mental health crisis and that there was no mechanism for them to provide any input into what's happening. And when we do know that sometimes people get brought to the hospital, they're apprehended, there's indications that they're a risk to themselves, but they don't necessarily provide that full picture to the doctor, like you mentioned. And there's a lot of reasons for that, especially if they've been through an apprehension and certification before. It's not an easy thing for a person to go through, and they may be wanting to try to avoid that. Maybe their intentions are set on self-harm. Maybe it's fear, or maybe, as you said, they don't have the ability. And so what we're trying to do really is give doctors and nurse practitioners additional information to make a very critical decision. And don't forget, Camilla, sometimes we're asking a doctor or nurse practitioner to make a decision based on, interacting with a person they may have only just met 5 minutes ago in the emergency room. So we want to give the doctors and nurses that tool and then provide an opportunity for families and, close relatives to have that input as well.
Mm-hmm. And that is so important what you're saying, because when, as an adult, I want to commit suicide, I don't want to live anymore, then my family, my children, because I'm an adult, they treat you as an adult, that I can make a wise decision, and it's up to the doctors and whatever I want the doctor to know, right? And I don't want to tell the whole story to the doctor, because I fear too, because I also know that once you are committed to the hospital, like with other things, you can do some advocacy. In the mental health crisis, when you are committed, it's called, then there's no advocacy from outside that can say, oh, she's no danger to anybody, let her go home and all that. The fear that we have, people are not very clear, and that's why if we are not getting the whole team or whole family involved, then is my word versus what I tell the doctor or the psychiatrist.
Well, there's a lot of factors too. So once a person has been certified for care involuntarily under the Mental Health Act, there's lots of times at which that sort of involuntary care has to be reassessed. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that we're going to still maintain the rights of people. We're not taking away any rights, and we're not asking doctors to really breach that person's confidentiality beyond informing the person they talk to that they're actually there, getting evaluated. It's simply providing an opportunity for input. And, I've been, learning a lot, especially my role as MLA, about addictions, recovery, mental health. And there's something called recovery capital. Mm-hmm. And recovery capital are all the things that come into your life, the factors that surround you that influence your ability to recover from addiction or even mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And families and close friends or the supports that we have are part of our recovery capital. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at ways of transforming our healthcare system that increases the amount of recovery capital people have. Finding ways not only in this circumstance, so my bill just deals with the Mental Health Act, but I think we need to take a better look at the way that we do healthcare in BC, especially mental health and addictions care, that allows for more participation by people's support networks. Because, once you get, let's say you get stabilized at the hospital, who is going to be there to help support you? And, services are important, of course, but our friends, our employers, our loved ones, the people that care for us in the community, our close associates, we need to include people in the plan to help someone recover, find ways of allowing people to come together to help a person who's experiencing a crisis, break down the barriers, the stigma that surrounds mental health and addiction, and let people come together, both with the care that's provided by government services and private partnerships with government, but also because families and friends, I hear time and again that they really do want to help the ones that they love. It's just not always that there's a clear path to let that happen. We really have to find ways of improving our system so that it's working better, to make sure that when recovery capital is there, people's ability to get better, their families, that we are supporting that. And so my bill is just one small baby step in a lot of bigger steps that we really would like to see this government do. And should my party form government, we have a plan called Better is Possible that includes a lot of these kinds of ideas of all of systems approaches, finding ways of including family in the process, making sure that the entire family is receiving the support that they need. And we really can do better if we start taking these steps to look and reevaluate the way that we're handling these situations.
So this is one part of what you are doing, but there are other things that you are also brought up and talked about in the legislation. So can you go back and remember some of the other things that you brought to the forefront? Being RCMP officer yourself for so long, you have worked with everybody and you had the first-hand experience working with the families, working with... So tell me there are so many. And also another big thing was that the revolving door that, especially with VPD, you might have, about that how the police don't have that power to keep people in jail, and they keep on getting out and committing the same crime or different crime all the time. So it's costing the taxpayers money. And people are at the edge that they go back and they will be out and do the same crime. So is there anything that and we want to have some kind of cap on it, that if a person has done it this many times, he's not safe to be out.
Yeah, so So on the addictions and mental health side, and there is some nexus to, many people who are coming into contact with our criminal justice system have sort of intersecting issues. And then in terms of prolific offenders, people who are chronic repeat offenders. So I'll address both those sort of topics. So on the topic of mental health and its intersection with our criminal justice system, that's why the BC Liberals plan, which is called Better is Possible, is an all of systems program. So what our Better is Possible program is a recovery-oriented system of care that looks at across all ministries of the government, including things like our criminal justice system, and looks at them through the lens of wellness. So not saying that people are excused from crime as a result of addictions, but looking at ways in which, someone who comes into contact with the criminal justice system who has these other intersecting illnesses, how do we make sure that those systems within criminal justice are equipped to deal with those people to help them recover through their journey in the justice system? But when we're talking about chronic repeat offenders in themselves, apart from perhaps better increased mental health and addictions treatment within corrections, the reality is in BC is that we have had very lax bail conditions imposed, and the direction to Crown Council, in our opinion, as the opposition, has been not strong enough in asking for Crown prosecutors to ask for people to be held in custody where appropriate. We've seen time and again people who have completed and are accused and convicted also of multiple assaults on individuals, often random attacks on people who then are released from custody and then have offended again. It's our view that even with legislation coming from the federal government, that provincially more could have and should be done to ensure that particularly violent repeat offenders are held in custody to protect the public.
And I think I also hear that, when you talk about that, people just blame somebody and they say that's a federal issue and we just can't do whatever we want to do because it's a federal legislation. Yes, that is federal, but I think as a province, we can also, because people are suffering here in the province. Another thing I was going to talk to you about was these illicit drugs. Not illicit drugs, 6 people die every day.
It's actually 7 now.
It's 7 now, dying every day. And I get all these negative people talk to me and they said, what is this? What are we trying to do here? When we are allowed 2.5 milligrams of cocaine, is it cocaine or is it marijuana that you can carry with you?
Well, marijuana is legal in British Columbia.
Yeah,
but so now we're talking about illicit drugs. So decriminalization,
yes.
Came into force at the end of February, I believe. Was it January? Maybe? End of January, pardon me, yeah. And so we've been in it for several weeks now.
Yeah.
And what it did was it decriminalized possession of small amounts of a combination or any one of cocaine, methamphetamine, MDMA, and ecstasy and fentanyl. Yeah. So it does not mean it's legal. So unlike alcohol and marijuana, which are legal, these drugs are not legal, which means you cannot sell them, you cannot trade them.
It's a personal use.
And it is, yes. And it just means that although they are still regulated drugs within Canada, you will not be charged with a criminal offense should you be found with 2.5 milligrams or less of those drugs. But if you have more, then you will still face a criminal penalty, even if it is your own personal drug. You cannot have more in your possession than 2.5 milligrams, or grams actually. So, there's a lot still of unanswered questions, and that's unfortunate. The idea, though, behind this decriminalization is that it's meant to reduce the stigma behind addiction. From our point of view, that's important as the opposition, but what's really unsettling is the fact that so we reduce the stigma and then people come forward for a treatment, but we don't have enough. So, much more work has been done. And in my view, it's been a failure on part of this government. They've doubled the amount of people dying every single day since 2016, but they have not doubled the amount of treatment and recovery spaces available in British Columbia. So there was actually some guidelines in place put forward in the agreement between the province and the federal government that stipulated the things that had to be done during for decriminalization, including public consultation, education, making sure that there was clear metrics for measuring whether or not decriminalization is a success, and what would success even mean? Does it mean just less charges? Because the reality is that in British Columbia, we haven't been charging people with simple possession or targeting people who simply use drugs in almost a decade. And I can tell you, too, that I've never heard in British Columbia of a case where someone came forward to a doctor, for example, and admitted drug use and had a charge laid against them. So if that's one of the metrics, that isn't a very good indicator of our success. We need to be very careful in making clear objectives for the public. What a BC Liberal government made clear is that our objective is to have as many people have their best life as possible. And that means recovery. Doesn't mean that we're against harm reduction. We support harm reduction. We want to make sure that all of the pillars, harm reduction, education and enforcement, decriminalization, treatment and recovery, all of those are strong pillars, but you need to have an ultimate goal. The NDP's goal to me is unclear what the end game is. But for BC Liberal government, the end game is recovery, whatever that looks like for a person. For some people, we have to know that success is just simply getting a person off the street and making sure they have the care that they deserve, even if it's palliative care.
Yeah.
And for some people, recovery means getting back their kids.
Yeah.
Being able to be productive and happy and reconnect with family. So there's no single definition of success, but for us, the overall picture is one of recovery for British Columbians.
My thing, the way I look at it, yes, you're not going to be criminalized for that amount carrying in your position. But then again, I'm crying out for help. And if a cop stops me, and that way they're not going to charge me. But I should have an option to go to a treatment center if I wish to. And when that is not available, we are not pouring money like that to have a treatment centers or detox centers, then I am back on the street again with carrying the same position. So I don't know how you measure success in that.
Yeah,
you are allowed
that's the
that.
problem.
Yeah, you allowed that, but I'm crying out for help, and there is nowhere to go.
Well, and that's the problem is that even with a lot of the new announcements that the NDP made in this budget,
Yeah,
a
and there's
lot
a
of
lot
those
of money they
are,
can put.
and they're long term, so
Yeah.
it's not for immediate
Yeah.
rollout and spaces. Our Better is Possible plan would make treatment and recovery options free to all British Columbians. Because think about this too, people who have a lot of money, they can pay to go wherever they wish.
Yes.
Betty Ford Clinic, go to Palm Springs, go
Yeah.
wherever you want in
Yeah.
the world if you have the money and the resources. If you are on social assistance, you will be able to get funding for treatment.
Yeah.
But if you're in the middle class, you might make too much money
Yeah.
to get that and you'll still have a fee. And so it's actually the people that are in the middle class who are actually at the most disadvantage.
Yeah.
We need to break down those barriers. For me, Camilla, you might have heard that I've struggled with PTSD as a result of my career in policing and that I also have recovered from alcohol. I did that because I was able to receive free counseling and therapy because I'm a veteran. And so for me, treatment and recovery was free of charge.
Yeah.
And I think in some circumstances that it's appropriate. But the bottom line is that today, we don't even have enough services for the people that are ready to go now.
Yes.
And so we just need to work as hard as we can. And I'm going to keep on pushing because we need to get people into spaces. We have private-public partnerships that exist today that every day when the lights go out, there are empty beds. We need funding for those beds and we need to get people in and care when they're ready and ready to have it.
Very well. Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any last word to wrap up?
Oh, well, I've been extremely grateful. I've received dozens of letters and emails from people to my constituency office who want to support my private members bill to help include family in decisions in mental health emergencies. If any of your viewers have a personal story that they want to share with my office that will help us to convince the Premier to call my bill and to get my legislation to go ahead, then please do that. It's going to take all of us working together really to make sure that we can help people through this addictions and mental health crisis, and we need to include families as well. So anyone out there that's watching or listening, I really would encourage them to help us get there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Camilla.
No worries. Thank you for coming and talking about all these issues that nobody wants to talk about, but you are an advocate for so many people that are watching you today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Eleanor Struco. The United Nations declare March 21st as International Day for the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Asian Pulse TV, Shakti Society, One Voice Canada, and Justice Mustang are teaming up together to observe this day at the Surrey City Centre Library on March 21st from 5 until 7:30 p.m. The evening will have a keynote speaker, panel guest, Indigenous openings and light refreshments. Those who are attending are requested to be on time as we would like to start the event and end the event on time. For more information, please call 604-537-5123 or 604-218-3976. Talking about events, I would like to tell you what is an open mic. An open mic is a live show at a venue such as a coffee house, a nightclub, a comedy club, or even at a restaurant, which usually take place at night, and the audience members also perform at this event on the stage. It doesn't matter if you are an amateur or a professional, just go for it. It's a good chance for first timers to see and to check if they could be a good singers or if they are just bathroom singers. So Showman Events Entertainment and Production House brings open mic, which is free open mics, and they are hosted at regular intervals at different locations. You can check the website. You can even follow them on Instagram under showman_entertainment, and you will get to know where is the next event happening. For further information, you can call 604-790-9077. One of our friends from Asian Pulse TV is in dire need of kidney. We all have 2 kidneys, and if you are in a capable position to donate one, please do so. And if you have donated kidneys in the past and you would like to become an ambassador, then get in touch with us. You can call 604-537-5123 and we would be able to help you. For this show or for any of the shows that you have missed, you can always watch it again. I would like to tell you the 3 shows that we broadcast under the Asian Pulse TV. First is Fiji in Focus, which you can watch on Tuesdays at 10 p.m., Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m. Kamila Singh Show, which is broadcasted on Monday at 10 a.m. and again on Sunday at 5:30 p.m. VT Vibes, a channel for youth, is broadcasted on Thursday at 10 p.m. and again on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. All of our shows are also uploaded on our YouTube channel under Asian Pulse or under Kamila Singh's show. Before I sign off today, I want to leave you with these thoughts. Sometimes the people you wanted as part of your story are only meant to be part of a chapter. With that, I'm your host Manbir Randhawa signing off for today. See you next week.